Why Gen 5 isn't Pokemon, or Gen 1, a critique of the creatures introduced in the 5th generation Pokemon games. I'm Max, and I am the foundation for the eradication of Gen 5 Pokemon. That's a Twitter handle that I don't check. Please don't go to our Twitter. Twitter is a grotesque hellscape.
Is that also your blue sky now?
I don't remember if that's my blue sky, but that's in the QR code. Before we start the panel, though, I need to give you all a test, because I need to know how much you know about Pokemon before we proceed, because obviously this is an improvisational PowerPoint, so how you answer the questions will change the 121 remaining slides. So I'm going to show you an image, and if you believe it's a Pokemon, raise your hand. And if you do not believe it's a Pokemon, just don't raise your hand. Make sense? Good? We cool? Got it? Awesome. Is this a Pokemon? Raise your hand if yes, keep it down if no. This is perfect. You all are doing so great. This is Machamp. Machamp is in fact a Pokemon. Okay? Why is your hand still up, Chris? Is this a Pokemon? What is the name of the panel? Gen 5 isn't Pokemon. This is Girder Thing. He is Gen 5 and therefore not Pokemon. You've already messed up. Don't worry, I believe in second chances, okay? So if you believe this is a Pokemon, please raise your hand. Love that that really slow raise. Such confidence. I think missing no, you can catch it. It's a Pokemon. But wait.
What did I tell you about this yet?
I was just trying to get 128 copies of the 6th item on my hard drive. I don't know why we have to go through this.
Okay, Microsoft loves you.
This is probably going to take a while, so I think we need to figure out something to do while we wait for my computer to reboot. Like, I don't know, raise your hand if you think this is a Pokemon.
Best Pokemon.
You don't have your hands up, that's fine. I understand why. This is Shrimp Stompora. He will be a Pokemon one day. Not yet, but soon. So if you put your hand up, you're right. If you put your hand down, you know, maybe you're defining it by what's currently a Pokemon, in which case you're right, but not really. Next up, is this a Pokemon?
It will be.
So I'm not, why is this not a Pokemon? Why is the brave little toaster not a Pokemon? Huh? You don't know. So here's the thing. These are all Rotom forms. And while Rotom is Gen 4, inevitably Rotom has possessed every electronic imaginable and has just become an entire Smart House. And Smart House Rotom is very Gen 5 coded, therefore Smart House Rotom is not a Pokemon. Next up, is this a Pokemon? You all are doing so well. Chris isn't. Chris is doing terribly. The rest of you are doing amazingly. This isn't a Pokemon, this is Emboar.
I'm earning my F+.
So, if you did well on the test, congratulations. You're pretty cool, just like Keanu Reeves. If you didn't do well on the test, Chris, this is an image of you.
It's delicious.
So, really sorry to say that. So if you did do poorly, I do regretfully have to inform you I am diagnosing you with a fatal case of Gen 5-itis. But before we go further, I think we need to discuss the safe ways to research Generation 5, because it is a dangerous thing to do. If you don't go in with the proper safety equipment, OSHA will crack down on you for the next 2 months, and then OSHA will stop existing, and you can do whatever you want at the workplace, wear open-toed shoes, drill without a mask, who cares? Yeah, juggle chainsaws in the office. Everything will be legal soon. Anyway, so what we're going to do is apply the hazards of Gen 5 to something most people recognize, which is the danger diamond. Now, this is pretty common. You see it on all of those trucks that drive on the freeway and look like they'd be really cool if they exploded. So each color on the danger diamond represents something else. First is red. Red indicates flammability. A score of 0 means the item is not flammable. A score of 4, which is the highest, means it's incredibly flammable. For Gen 5, it's a 5. The flame wars you can get into online with Gen 5 are absolutely legendary. People will say anything to you. Someone has threatened to shoot me at one of these panels before, so 5 on the flammability scale. Next, blue is how toxic something is. 0 means, you know, it's cool and you can drink it like water, and 4 means you probably shouldn't touch it. Gen 5, again, hitting out with the 5. Absolutely toxic. They bullied the Tepig propaganda account off of Twitter. I don't know how the Gen 5 community decided to bully itself off of a platform, but there you go. Yellow is how explosive something is. Unlike the other two numbers, you actually want this to be as high as possible. In the case of Pokemon, it's how many new instances of explosion were introduced. In the case of Gen 5, that is 0. They're really messing this up. And then white is used for other things, you know, maybe measuring if it's inert, if it reacts to water, if it's likely to start the 11th Crusade for Constantinople, you know, normal stuff. So when we're talking about Gen 5, obviously the answer of should we look into this is no, we shouldn't. But I have beef, so we're going to do it. So when you're doing this, there are a couple options. Option 1 is eat paste. I don't eat paste, though. Chris does. I didn't join Team Instinct. I'm on Valor. Team Valor is cool. Option 2, just remove your nostalgia goggles and approach it as an entirely new IP. And, you know, like the 5-year-old who loves whatever new thing's approaching to them. And it'd be nice to turn my brain off and accept Gen 5, but I don't want to do that. I got my nostalgia goggles permanently tattooed into my face. So option 3 is what I've burned down to, which is I can only research it using Bulbapedia. Because if on Bulbapedia, I can use a word replacer and swap out Pokemon with something much more appropriate. So here we have Trubbish. Trubbish is an abomination. And here we have Kling Clang, the dumpster fire from Bulbapedia, the community-driven dumpster fire encyclopedia. And this next image, I need to warn all of you, is a little explicit. So the next word replacer option is, of course, Keldeo the Brony. And quick hand check, everybody, hand check. It's dangerous, dangerous. I think most people here just don't know what a hand check is. Just for the best. But yeah, no, why are we getting a Pokemon that is just a My Little Pony OC? That's kind of weird. So let's talk about combat. Generation 1 invented combat. Before Pokemon Red, Blue came out, if you wanted to, I don't know, fight a friend, you just wouldn't. No one knew you could do that. Like if I was hanging out with my friend Clayton and Clayton said, hey, let's get hot dogs, I'd be like, yeah, of course, conflict doesn't exist, so I'm going to go with you to get hot dogs, even though I don't even eat beef or pork or whatever's in a hot dog. I'm not sure. I don't think anyone's sure. But then when Gen 1 came out, suddenly they're like, wait, we can fight? Oh, we should invade a rock and steal their oil. That'd be pretty cool. And Gen 1's impact on conflict has really just permeated through forever. Like just the whole red-blue dichotomy in war, going all the way up to the most recent WWE game where we had Omo v Cookie Monster. Wasn't even the title fight, but they were red and blue, so it worked out. And you'd think Gen 1 would just, like Game Freak would just announce, you know, mission accomplished. We have completed combat. We have solved all battles. This game is perfect. But they didn't do that. They went back to the drawing board, and they gave us the Brood War to StarCraft's Gen 1. Gen 2 came out, and it introduced so many new mechanics to flesh out the game. We got weather. We got entry hazards. We got held items. You're laughing like that's not how you keep spaghetti in the fridge. What else are plastic bags for?
Everything else but spaghetti.
Not everybody has Tupperware money, Chris. Some of us has to have panels at conventions to get in.
You'll just wrap the pan?
No, I use a plastic bag like a normal person. Gen 2 also gave us the special split. In Gen 1, special attack and special defense were the same stat. When Gen 2 came out, they got split into different stats, which didn't work out too well for Gyarados, but was pretty good for some other Pokemon. We also got to see the introduction of new types like Dark and Steel, allowing for more competitive options and to balance the definitely not at all broken Psychic type. Gen 3 took a lot of criticism of the Pokemon games to heart. Back then, people were like, man, Pokemon, that's a children's game. So then Game Freak released the OCD simulator that was Ruby Sapphire. Suddenly, it wasn't just about catching your favorite Pokemon. You had to breed them to get the right natures, the right abilities, and the right IVs and EVs. And suddenly, you had to keep an Excel spreadsheet open at all times just to know if you were optimally raising your Tentacool so that it would be competitively viable. I don't know about you, but I definitely regret the several hours I spent running up and down Silphco fighting Ghastlies to special attack IV train a Tentacool. Why would anyone do that? Gen 4 came out, and Gen 4 had two big changes to how the game operated. Change 1 was the physical special split. In Gens 1 through 3, all water moves were special, and all normal moves were physical. After starting with Gen 4, suddenly some grass moves, like Leaf Blade, would be physical, while others, like Mega Drain, would be special. So this allowed certain Pokemon, like Gyarados, to be able to suddenly use type-based moves much more effectively. And it's weird. This seems like a huge change that would be the most important thing Gen 4 released. And somehow it isn't, because Gen 4 also released the move Stealth Rocks. And the amount of entries for Pokemon on Smogon that just start with, man, this Pokemon would be great if it wasn't weak to Stealth Rocks, is significant. So the fact that one move is widely considered to be as effective towards the meta as changing how attack damage is calculated, wild. And then Gen 5 came in and it did a lot for how the game worked. We've got whatever that is, and that thing. Gen 6 let us warp Digivolve. That was pretty cool. I like my Mega Pokemon, they're fun. Gen 7 brought Smash Balls in because Pikachu and Jigglypuff decided they can't have all the fun in Super Smash Bros., so they smuggled some of the Smash Balls in and let us do an interpretive dance. Gen 8 let our Pokemon get big. I don't know why they thought that was a fun mechanic. They're just like, what if we just let them warp Digivolve with special moves, but add Vuvuzela music? And I gotta hand it to them, the Vuvuzela music was great. I'm not going to hand it to them for anything else, just the Vuvuzela music.
Have you seen a big Magikarp?
Yeah, I've seen a big Magikarp use Splash. I don't care.
It's really funny, though. Give it that. Give it like a penny.
Okay, big Magikarp is funny. Are you happy now?
Yes.
Good. And then Gen 9 gave us hats. I think that hats are actually the best of these weird gimmick mechanics because, you know, having a Rattata is one thing, but having a Rattata that can hit you with Stab Ice Fang, that's a whole nother ballgame, man. So now that we've gone over how Gen 5 hasn't contributed at all to how the games are going to be played, we're going to talk about how it's actually hindered how the games are played. And to do that, we have to talk about power creep and the meta more generally. So here we have Machamp, and Machamp after going to a tanning bed and tying a rubber band to his head for like 3 months. That's how you get that, right? Just want to be clear. So their base stat totals are the same, but what happened was they just took Machamp's stats that were already not great and made them worse, and then took Machamp's stats that were good or useful, and for Girder thing, they just made them better. So the idea was to just make something that just effectively replaces Machamp in the meta. And I'm not saying power creep is bad. If you have a game and you don't have power creep, ultimately you will have the same things be used over and over, which is why, as much as I don't like any of the designs in Gen 5, I do appreciate that they did do Dexit, forcing people to not use Lucario again. It's really annoying when people only use Lucario. I just wish they gave me options that were better than whatever this is. Other egregious examples of power creep are these three guys. First, we have Volcarona, who I'm pretty sure they invented just to justify Stealth Rocks. Like, man, Stealth Rocks is really suppressive. Let's put in something that needs Stealth Rocks to keep it, to stop it from dominating the meta. This thing just has insane special attack, special defense, and speed, and to make up for it, it has really low attack and defense. If you look at stat spreads for newer Pokemon compared to older Pokemon, you get a lot more of these massive swings in stats compared to more even spreads for like Gen 1 and 2. Next we have what I can only assume is Sandslash's edgy persona, which is weird because I'm pretty sure Sandslash is already most 8-year-olds' edgy persona. And I've got a couple issues with this. First of all, Why did we let something just get stuck in tire wire? That's kind of weird. Third, why is its attack stat 135? That is higher than Dragonite's attack stat, and the difference between Dragonite and this thing is I'm pretty sure I can run this thing over with my car and I'll be fine. And I think if you ran over Dragonite with your car, you would have severe tire damage. Issue 3, its speed stat is 88, which is the Nazi number, so we do need to cancel this thing. Next we have Darmanitan, and Darmanitan has a pretty low base stat total, but because of its stat distribution, 140 attack and 95 speed, it's still pretty good competitively, despite, looking bad. And this is done because it has 110 difference between its attack and special attack stat, the largest in any Pokemon outside of Mega Beedrill, which was them taking Beedrill and trying to design it to be good. And there was a joke there, but I forgot to do it. So with how oppressive Gen 5 is, I wanted to know what is this doing to the meta? And unfortunately, when Smogon lists Pokemon that exist in the OU tier, they don't tell you what gen they're from. So I can only assume this is what competitive Pokemon looks like right now, where Gen 5 is in excess of 1,000% of usable Pokemon and everything else is below 0. The next problem Gen 5 introduced was just an absolute overabundance of Dragon type. This is the number of Dragon type Pokemon in the OU as a percentage of Pokemon in the tier. So in Gen 1 and 2, no viable dragons. By the time we hit Gen 5, it's 16%. This caused Gen 6 to introduce Mike Pence's favorite type, the fairies, just to get rid of the dragon type. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate that. And it did mostly work. Post-Gen 5, dragons went back down to a much more reasonable representation. And I'm not saying dragons shouldn't exist in the OU. I'm just saying 16% is pretty significant in a game with 18 types. Now, I know what you're saying. Wow, Gen 9 looks pretty bad too. That's an error. They're counting Paldean forms for that. So, like our Raikou, our Entei, our Suicune, but, why is a giraffe a dragon? I really need to know that. I get the raptor. I get the triceratops. This is just a giraffe. But anyway, if you reappropriate them to their original generation, Gen 2, it actually evens the chart out pretty nicely. And we just see Gen 5 ruining everything, and all the other gens chilling in a much more reasonable location. But enough of numbers. Let's just talk about how ugly they are. Because they're so ugly. I would know. I'm also very ugly. So here we have Hitmonchan and Hitmonlee, two great Gen 1 Pokemon. And here we have their Gen 5 counterparts, Red Thing and Blue Thing. And I think that there's some good design in these. You can tell what they're going for. These are just guys and geese. Just a guy and a gee. I mean, huh? Yeah, a guy and a gi with a skin condition. Thank you. I mean, you have Hitmonchan, based off of noted Japanese martial artist Jackie Chan, seen here collecting the talismans and teaching children wholesome things. And then you have Hitmonlee, based on noted Japanese martial artist Bruce Lee, seen here beating up the internet. God, I hate Chuck Norris. And then we have Gen 5. We have Sock. And I don't know why you'd name a Pokemon after that thing you take off of your feet before you go to bed. That's kind of weird. Then we have Throw, which is just named after an adult man having a tantrum. I'm not sure why that's cool. That seems pretty lame. And then we have the mistake that was, of course, our Gen 5 starter. We all know him. He's based on a sumo wrestler. Oh, wait. Sorry, we already had a sumo wrestler Pokemon. Don't worry. He's firefighting type. Well, they couldn't have had more than one firefighting before Emboar, right? Nope. Oh, they did. Okay, I'm not sure. There's got to be, we'll get to Emboar eventually. I believe in, wait, that's for later. There we go, Emboar. Why did they give us a third firefighting type in a row? And why did they model him after Toru from Jackie Chan Adventures? That's just weird. And then we have the blatant OC do not steals. We have Tentacruel and then Tentacruel with an inflation kink. We have Golbat and Golbat after someone tells him he loves him. And then we have everyone. Which one of those is Cliff Abel and which is Audino? I can't tell. Is that one Cliff Abel? Yeah, thank you. This is really good audience participation. I appreciate it. They look the same. And then we still have the low-hanging fruit. So here we have Garbodor. First of all, why are you giving it garbage bag pigtails? Do not make a garbage bag cute. That's weird. Next, just whenever I see it, I get like viscerally disgusted. I want to take up smoking just so I can put a cigarette out on it. But as you can tell, it absorbs those cigarettes and turns them into fingers. So I am making it stronger while getting lung cancer. Next, its other arm is clearly a gas pump, so it's obviously a Republican. So I hate Garbodor. Next we have Kling Klang. This is a fundamental misunderstanding of how mechanics work. So you see we have this, we have the first gear that was injured, and its teeth spin this next teal gear, which is presumably attached to this larger gear in the back. So that spins this gear, which spins that gear. But then where does this center gear attach to the peach gear? Because there's no teeth that are connecting there. Yet somehow this spins that, spins that, spins that. That's not how physics works. Why are you trying to teach children science incorrectly? This seems like it would only be valid in a textbook in Mississippi. And then we have the ice cream cone. Now, I don't know about you guys, but when I'm scooping ice cream, I take the cone and I put one scoop on, and then I put another scoop on top of that. I don't take the cone, put a scoop on, hold it sideways, hope physics stops working for a little while, so I can put another scoop on and enjoy the thing. It's just gonna fall. Next, why is it designed after an N64 controller? I think we can all agree in retrospect, N64 controllers are kind of terrible. Like, I had a friend use one for the first time, she didn't know what to do. They're a bad design. Finally, why is it vaping? Why did they have the ice cream Pokemon sponsored by Big Tobacco? That's weird. And finally, we have Ranunculus, which you can tell was designed in Oklahoma because if they made it in any other state, they wouldn't have been forced to carry the concept to term. But, you know, as things are going, that's getting less true. If you're wondering why Pokemon Stadium 2 hasn't come out yet on Switch Game Pass, it's because Nintendo's been having to go back and add more pro-life messaging into their games, you know, for this thing. So that's so when Egg Emergency does come out, it's going to look a little bit more like this. But I think it would be mean of me to just make fun of the bad designs of Gen 5. I should also speak highly of the good designs of Gen 1. First, we have Electrode. Now, Electrode is a classic case of a mimic, which exists in basically every RPG game and several fantasy anime. Mimic are incredibly common. To make a JRPG without a mimic is just a crime. So Electrode is a very necessary component in any JRPG ecosystem. Great design. Next we have Mr. Mime. There's not a lot to say about Mr. Mime, mostly because there's a lot of pending litigation against him, so we'll just move on. And then we have Muck. Muck is a classic sludge monster. Again, another thing that has existed in media for years. When you are making a new type, in this case poison, you're going to sit there and be like, what is something we can make that is the most representative of that type? And it is a ball of sludge. Perfect. We got Muck. I think I've won that case. So let's talk about the rivals. First, we have Gary. This is, of course, in Pokemon Red Blue. He bullies you unjustly, but you do kind of get your revenge by murdering his Raticate. He's involved in the plot of the games to some degree, but mostly he just has a really cool cape and eventually succeeds Giovanni as the gym leader in Viridian City because Red is too busy having a manic depressive episode in the mountains. Honestly, pretty good 2-game arc. Big fan of Gary. Maybe he should have helped you fight Selfco, but double battles didn't exist then, so, you know, whatever. Next we have Silver. This is from Johto. He's a jerk. He sees Pokemon as tools of war. He hates them. You know who else just doesn't like Pokemon and views them as tools of war? That's right, N. The leader of PokePeta. But, you know, just as hypocritical as normal PETA. He's a character you all know and love, but only because you want to bang him. Which is fine. It's okay. N's 20. Canonically, you can ship it. The Problem is that in the game, your character's not 20. Your character's like 10. And N takes you on a ride on the Seattle Big Wheel. And that's some Epstein shit. I'm just saying. So, yeah, we need to cancel N. But speaking of N, I think we should just go into the villainous teams more broadly. Gen 1, again, hits it out of the park with Team Rocket. They're so simple. It's perfect. They run a casino. They take over Selfco just because they can, which makes them kind of the closest thing to a government Kanto has. In later games, they take over Radio Tower. They have real goals, which are mostly just generic crimes. I love Team Rocket. In Gen 3, we get Team Magma and Aqua. This creates an interesting situation where you have two teams that are actually fighting against each other, so whichever game you take decides which one is the protagonist team and which one is the antagonist team. The only real problem here is, like, Team Aqua is objectively wrong. There's way too much water in Hoenn. Team Magma's right. I don't know how I feel about... Yeah, see, this is live footage of Hoenn. I'm not sure how I feel about, like, Eco-Terrorists being villains in a game franchise. Like, I don't know, Nintendo, maybe you shouldn't subtweet that way, but otherwise, good time. Then we have the downhill of villainous teams begin with Team Galactic. They're just a doomsday cult, like, based off of An Shinrikyo, and I don't know why we had to do that. Why did bad guy teams have to go from we're a criminal organization who runs a casino and takes over a science lab to we just want to kill everybody? And then Gen 5 comes out and actually, wait, this is Dark Hand. Sorry. These guys are cool. Let's talk about Gen 5 team. That is, of course, Pokepeta, but also a doomsday cult. I don't know why Nintendo decided all of bad guy teams just have to be doomsday cults. Like, you could do something more interesting than that. I think it's weird that I'm a 10-year-old and I'm the only one who can stop them. But I have a secret I want to tell all of you guys. You know, in Pokemon Black, White 2, I think Team Plasma's got it going on. Like, their plan is to freeze the planet using Kyurem, which, like, have you seen global temperatures lately? That seems like a good idea. Plus, I love the cold. So, Black, White 2, pretty good. Black, White, definitely not Pokemon, but Team Galactic and Black, White 2, they're cooking. Fortunately, though, Pokemon did eventually fix the teams with Team Skull. We're cool. We just, steal bus stops for some reason. Why does Team Skull steal bus stops? I don't understand.
Why do they hate public transportation?
I think they just want their own bus stop. I'd like to think that they're moving them and setting up their own transit network. So with that, I think we have to talk about the movies, because Gen 5 has dropped the ball in so many ways. Of course, they're going to drop the ball with the movies. There are a few simple rules to the movies. One, hopefully Ash dies. If not, hopefully he's there and a relevant character. And also Pikachu's a relevant character. After all, he's our protagonist. But Kyurem and the Sword of Justice doesn't really do that, which is, again, a Gen 5 movie, which follows a Brony on his adventures where Ash is just, you can see he's really in the background there. Ash's plot relevance in this movie is almost nothing. It's just following Kyurem and him fixing his horn so he can fight a dragon, and, like, I don't care about Kyurem. It makes me miss Hoopa Clash of Ages. I don't know if you've seen Hoopa Clash of Ages or not, but this movie is literally a 6-year-old taking all of their Pokemon toys and smashing them together. It's amazing. And Ash is there. So now we're going to talk about the badges. This is Gary's badge collection. I've been trying to find out where I could purchase it on Etsy, but I haven't found it yet. It's kind of wild that no one has taken Gary's 10 fake badges and just made them purchasable. Among his badges, we have the Weighted Companion Cube badge for defeating GLaDOS, the Quill badge for defeating John Hancock in a Beyblade competition, and the Taco Bell badge for eating 3 Beef Crunchwrap Supremes without breaking the toilet afterwards. Not great badges, no real consistent theme. Unlike the Gen 1 badges, which slap. We have the Boulder badge, which is a boulder. We have the Cascade badge, which is a cascade. And we have the Earth badge, which is an earth. Brilliant designs. This is in contrast with the absolutely abysmal Gen 5 badges. We have the dog that lets you use recover outside of battle, the ox that lets you use strength, the rooster for vitality, and hey Chris, these the Gen 5 badges? No.
I wish they were.
Those are the Jackie Chan Adventures talismans, aren't they? No wonder they looked so cool. So here are the Gen 5 badges.
I think you're close. You're almost there, I think. Maybe one more, maybe, you know?
I think these are still a better investment somehow. Okay, how many times can I do this bit? That's the real question.
2 more times.
Earth, fire, water, wind, water, heart. With our powers combined, we are Embor. That only works when there are like 50 people in here and we have energy, but we don't. We're tired. It's okay. I haven't had coffee either. So here are the Gen 5 badges. Chris. These aren't the Gen 5 badges, right?
I don't know.
This is my dad's used toothpick collection. We have the broken toothpick for when like the chicken was really stuck in his teeth. We have the normal toothpick he hasn't used yet. And we have the turf toothpick. This is ridiculous. We need to talk about something way more serious if we're going to really criticize Gen 5. What's something that Gen 5 has done that really deserves our ire?
Everything?
That. I'm not going to pretend that Pokemon hasn't always had an issue with poor representation. So in Gen 1, we had Jinx. They like to pretend that Jinx was a fashion trend. And, you know, that's nice and all. It doesn't explain why you had to recolor Jinx. I mean, this is not a fashion trend. This is how Japan draws black people. You've seen Mr. Popo. This is what happens when a country's entire knowledge of people from Africa is American 1930s minstrel shows. Because you can't get much more racist than American 1930s minstrel shows. God is Game Freak trying. Gen 3, we had Ludicolo. Now, someone will inevitably argue, Max, this is just a Happy Kappa pineapple thing. And I'm like, it can be that too, but the pineapple is clearly a poncho. He has a sombrero on, he's doing a happy dance, and he often has maracas. His name is, again, Ludicolo, and he evolves from Lombre. And what move does he start with in the games? Like, what's his first damaging move? It's not Tackle, it's not Scratch, it's not Pound, it's Astonish. They're scared. He's also one of only 3 Pokemon in Gen 3 to learn Thief by level up. Nintendo, what are you doing? Also, whenever Ludicolo is represented in media, he's almost exclusively working at a tequila bar as a server, and his move is Punch and Run, which sounds like Mug to me. You're wondering, how could they do worse than that? That's pretty messed up. And the answer is Gen 5, of course. This is Lenora. She's one of the gym leaders in Gen 5. And you may be saying, Max, that doesn't look very problematic. And you'd be right. This is the redone art for America. This is the original art of Lenora. They just looked at Aunt Jemima and went, okay, I can copy that. Next, we have some of the exclusive Pokemon. So this is Lilligant. Lilligant has a nice big hoop skirt and a floral hat. Very reminiscent of, you know, like a white woman in the antebellum South. She is, of course, the white version exclusive Pokemon. Would you care to guess what the black version exclusive Pokemon is? It's Cottony. And Cottony evolves into Whimsicott. Someone will inevitably argue, Max, this is just a stem of cotton. And I would ask, that's nice. Why did they make the stem of cotton look like a black man? And then they will push back. And these are not hypothetical pushbacks. These are actual arguments I have with people whenever I give this fucking panel. They will be like, this is Japan. They don't understand American representation in this way. And that sounds all well and good outside of the fact that A, Japan consumes a lot of American media, and B, the game takes place in America. They had to do some homework to be this racist. So I'm going to revise what a Gen 5 enjoyer looks like. This is no longer the standard Gen 5 enjoyer. This is. And Sakurai, Masahiro Sakurai, the developer of Smash Brothers, he knows. He agrees with me. Have you wondered why Gen 5 is entirely missing from the roster of playable Pokemon in Smash Brothers? And if Sakurai's on board, I think that proves the point. Therefore, Black and White is not Pokemon. Checkmate atheists. But there's still repercussions for this. So what has Gen 5 wrought upon society since its release? This is a graph of US pedestrian deaths over the last 30 years. This is when Pokemon Black White came out. Coincidence? Probably. Next, have you ever wondered why Subway got rid of the $5 footlongs? They understood that Gen 5 Pokemon was problematic and they couldn't even be associated with that number anymore. And Subway's good on this because they have a history of canceling monsters. And I don't know if you've seen Top Gun Maverick or not, but you know who the bad guys, the unnamed country that they are trying to do a war crime on? What kind of planes do they use? Gen 5 fighters. Even Tom Cruise is on board. I hate to be on the side of Scientology, but here we are. Sometimes you got to make friends out of enemies. But it gets worse. So after Gen 7, we got all of those regional variants, and they were a great time. And I was really hoping to get more regional variants, like, I don't know, a Lowland Typhlosion, Negative Furret, Millennial Xatu. We didn't get those. We got Iron Moth. And there's a real problem with introducing Iron Moth into the Pokemon franchise. So, Gen 1 introduced 151 Pokemon. Gen 5 introduced 155 imaginary Pokemon. Because again, they're not Pokemon, we've proved it, therefore they're imaginary. Now, I don't know who here has a math degree. I'll pretend to for the sake of this. But I to the 0th power is 1. I to the 1st power, which is a standard Gen 5 Pokemon, is imaginary. But I to the 2nd power, which is what happens when you make a regional variant, is -1. Therefore, every regional variant of a Gen 5 Pokemon they make erases a loved Pokemon from the erases Klefki from the Pokedex. They're not all winners. But I have some demands. I think there's a way to fix Pokemon, and with my 10 patented demands for Gen 10, I think we'll get there. Demand 1, just don't re-release Pokemon Black White. You don't need to do it. Those Black White were the worst selling of the core games in the franchise. Don't give them a remake. I know some people kind of want a Brilliant Diamond Sapphire or Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl remake to make Gen 5 worse. No, not even acknowledge the franchise going forward. It's dead to us. And I think Game Freak's figured it out because the new Legends game, Gen 6. Demand 2, we already have we already have Hitmonchan. We already have Hitmonlee. We already have Hitmontop. You got to give us the 4th of the martial arts masters. That's right, Shrimp Stompora. Demand 3, bring back speed-based critical hits and Gen 1 misses. Pokemon's too solved as a meta. If you make those 100% moves miss 1 out of every 255 times, I think that's going to make it fun. And if you make, Jolteon crit slightly more often than Slowbro, that'd also be a good time. Make Pokemon jank again. Let's do this. Demand 4. So we've had, a lot of the games more recently, Pokemon's let us dress up. But when Gen 4 came out, or Gen 8 came out, instead of, having this plethora of dress options, we just had clothing options based on the 4 seasons. The 4 seasons. And I don't know about you, but, I don't want to look like a nerd. I'm afraid if I walk around the world, I'm going to get shoved into a locker. So I think that they should let me, pick my clothes. Maybe let me dress up like Team Rocket. But no, I can't dress up like Team Rocket. That's kind of messed up. Demand 5, let me play as Team Rocket. In Gen 1, the guy at the end of the Nugget Bridge, he's like, would you like to join Team Rocket? A dialogue box doesn't even show up. But I would like to join Team Rocket. It'd be cool. Jesse and James seem like a cool hang. I would love to just, chill with them, cause property damage, and keep Kanto affordable for everybody. Demand 6, bring back more uses of explosion. We had Explosion and Self-Destruct in Gen 1, and all we've gotten is Glitter Bomb since. But they could do so much. We could have a Poison type one called Overdose that like toxics the enemy. We could have an Ice type one called Shatter that freezes them. We could just retype Explosion to be Fire type. You don't even have to do anything to that. And for Electric, we could have Pacific Gas and Electric. Be perfect. They definitely didn't burn my dad's house down. Demand 7, we all wanted Weed Cat to stay a cat. We wanted them to keep his feet taped to the floor. Did they listen to us? No. Not only did they make Weed Cat bipedal, they made him hot. Please stop making Pokemon hot. You can let the community do that for us. Game Freak doesn't need to just roll this out. Let us have fun with it. Don't just don't give us pre-described beauty standards in Pokemon. Demand 8, I found this dog named Charmander. I would like it if someone could adopt him. He seems like a very good boy. I'm not allowed to have dogs over 25 pounds, so if one of you could do it, that'd be cool. The screenshot's probably a year old. Someone probably put Charmander down. I'm really sad. Demand 9, I would like Nintendo to give me a job. Here's my resume. I used to work as a Pokemon journalist, so, you know, imagine the tips I could give you, Nintendo. I'm doing this for free. Imagine what I'd do if you could pay me. And Demand 10 is, of course, bring back Jackie Chan Adventures. It's the greatest Japanese anime of all time. And if it gets re-released, you know, maybe I won't have to do this panel anymore because I'll be making Jackie Chan Adventures content. And with that, that's the panel. It's over. Thank you all for tolerating this. If you have any questions, feel free to hit the mic. If you don't have questions, you should scan this QR code, which will take you to our various social medias. We have a Discord, a Twitch, a YouTube, a Blue Sky, and an OnlyFans. We also have business cards up front if you would like one of those. And those are all the things I have. So if you have any questions, concerns, comments, you know, something you just want to share with a group of anonymous strangers, there's a microphone. And if not, I would understand.